happy hour. Natty Tax happy hour. Dig.
I think my favorite part is when he says dig. Like,
dig.
It's like just like that's your one commandment. It's me, your one true God, Mike TV, and I have only one commandment, and that's to dig.
And that's that you dig.
Night Attacks
Dig
happy hour.
deep. Dig deep.
How was your weekend?
Good. I it was anniversary weekend, so Ashley and I had a little fun picnic.
First time not at DC.
Not at Dragon Con. Yeah, no, it was a bummer. I didn't realize how bummed I was gonna be until the weekend. But we did that. That meant I had to hustle and finish Raise the Dead stuff before we were gonna do that. So I, hustled on that throughout Saturday, and then yesterday was just a lot of farting around.
Do you have a whisper deadline for Raise the Dead that you could share? Or?
First week in October.
Okay.
That is when it will be released. The hope is that I have all the Audible stuff there. So I want to do the thing I was supposed to do with season 1, which is have the full series available for purchase on Audible when it's airing. So I could take advantage of the hey, you want the whole thing right now, plus a little bonus thing, then head on over. But yeah, that was the goal, is to lock it down to the point where we were ready to go. But no more pussyfooting around. It's Raise the Dead Season 2, 1964 is what we do. All your old friends are back. Nixon, Kennedy, LBJ, Hubert Humphrey, Henry Cabot Lodge. Everybody is back. As it turns out, nobody really leaves DC. And it is I think the best stuff I've ever done, in my opinion.
I think it's
beyond
loath to disagree. I mean, I think it's great, and I really enjoyed listening to it. And if we haven't spoken about it publicly, it means a lot to me that you would even take a modicum of my input on that stuff. And
no, of course,
it's been very flattering that you've listened to anything.
Oh God, yeah. No, I likewise, that you would put the kind of care and effort into the project. It means the world, and your notes actually made a pretty significant change, and it was exactly the kind of note that I wanted from Brian Brushwood. Like, Brian Brushwood has, again,
stayed on brand. This guy, he's got one note, and damned if he's not going to ring it.
It's a note that I can't model in my head. Like, I can't model that element that you have, that keen sense of like, I don't know where I am, what's happening. Like there's
that important model of the confused old man.
No, I mean, honestly, to be very frank, I think that we can play it off as dumbing down or ADD or whatever, right? But it's like, I know this from the game design perspective. What I always, thought a lot when we were designing the games was like, where's the fun? Like, where's the first moment where I get to have fun, where I get to put on this suit of, either I'm solving a problem or I'm acting like a person, but where's that first moment where everybody laughs?
Right.
And let's get that up front.
And oftentimes that could be the dress up moment of picking your first armor or whatever.
Sure. Yeah. Whatever. I mean, various different games have various different solutions, but for this show, obviously there's already a self-selection process of, I want to listen to a podcast about political history. Okay. So you have a pre-qualified audience, but even past that, you got to realize like, okay, well, how is a random person going to listen to this? And it's like, is the story I'm telling conducive to them going along with it? Like in my head, I'm thinking of a whole completed thing, but it's very hard for me to then be like, okay, well, I have this whole completed thing. How does the first 5 minutes go?
Right.
And the thing that I had there, which is now not in there, was a very short introduction. And because I wanted to get initially, I wanted to get right back into the story. And the story begins with the first meeting of Kennedy 1964. And it was like a fairly, and like that's where I did a lot of my resetting of like, all right, well, how much time has passed and what are they doing and how are they focusing on it? And in my mind, I'm like, oh, what a cool way that we can reintroduce ourselves into the world by explaining why the Kennedys went to Dallas, what has already happened, and where our characters are now. Uh, and you rightly were like, yeah, I mean, spoiler alert, we know where this goes. And everything else, it's like you can kind of wrap that up a little bit earlier and a lot more succinctly, and you can get us right into the story. And that was a big kill your darlings kind of moment for me because I loved for a couple different reasons that intro, but in going back to it and based on your feedback, I was like, yeah, that was a call that just needed to happen.
It's tough to go back in time and find the questions that might have been there, and to it's tough enough to go back and find the questions. It's double tough to decide that, okay, we're going to put these questions that we already know the answers to because we've already finished the project, and we're going to act as though we don't know the answers to the questions and instead put them on Front Street and
Yeah.
and then hide the rest of it going back.
Yeah, and whether or not it was a right decision or whether or not it was fun or whether or not it was engrossing or interesting, I think that there is an element that can get buried under artistic desire. And that is like the load you are asking your listener or viewer or player to take. And it's like, you got to hand people, you got to hand your audience like one thing at a time sometimes. And I think it's very easy to just model where your head's at as a creator to where your audience's head is at, but that's never the same. Like it's never the right thing. There does need to be this element of like, okay, hi, I'm Justin. You're listening to a podcast. This podcast is going to be about this. And here's a thing that will get you excited about where that concept leads. Our story begins here. Let's find our heroes now. And it's like, it's not to say that a more complex or opaque way of doing things wouldn't be even more artistically challenging or valid or anything else that you as a content creator tend to think are that's the metagame you're playing is I'm going to play against all other art and I want to see how my art scores up against it. But what you have is just like, again, keener than anybody that I've ever met. The sense of like, no, you what am I doing with all this shit in my hands right now? Like, like, so we're doing this and it's a podcast and now we're here and it's 5 minutes and I don't like, we know where this is going. Like, I don't know, like where I have not been promised why this is worth it
Well,
yet. Like,
and there's all other parts where it's like I'm sorry, are you pretending like I don't know who gets shot and when and where or how
and
this
that's,
all turns out and that kind of stuff?
and that's the thing is like in another version of this show, I probably could have done it's 3 episodes, season 2, which is much less than the 7 episodes of season 1.
But they're over an hour each, right?
They are over an hour,
Yeah.
over an hour each. The the there's probably a version of this where I do a full episode on the Kennedys, and it's just more about the administration and more about where they were and more about how things had shaken out in 1960.
But
And then it would end with them deciding to go to Dallas, because we know that it's a doomed thing, but there is an interesting take compared to an interesting take on why they decided to do it. But still, it's like, again, too much shit. I'm handing too much shit in the hands. It's like, is that to say that there's not an artistically valid reason for it to exist? And maybe in another world it could have, but at the very beginning, if we're out the gate and I'm doing like a fairly collegial, like, everything's cooking for the Kennedys, look at how awesome it is to be a Kennedy, then it's like, oh, okay, well,
like,
is this
let me
alternative
guess.
history? Like,
Yeah, right. Well, and also you're kind of doing a double twist in that you're also flipping the dynamic of what the channel means. You had a very core theme in the first season with Raise the Dead. Like, what if I told you blank correlated to blank, and thing that you would have thought correlated does not. And you realize that you can't keep that up forever because there's only so many magic tricks or whatever. So it's like you sort of have to break that paradigm. So instead, I think the first episode does a really good job of sort of like treating your audience with respect when it comes to the magic show, where it's like, it's almost as though your first episode, you're playing for a savvy audience or like at a magician's convention, where it's like, we all know you're going to be looking for this, and that. And yet, pretty sure I'm going to be able to prove blah, 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 and blah. And then you get all the crossed arms and you buy yourself 2 more episodes of full attention.
Yeah. And that's, every episode does touch back on the modern world. That what I found with this season was it's like, I need to demonstrate the worth of this show beyond, all right, do the Trump is Kennedy thing again. Do another Trump is Kennedy. Like, go and do that. Like, because I knew I couldn't. I
Right.
know that it's just, either I cheapen that by
turning
by
it into a
making
gimmick.
and it's like, there is enough that you can do. And I have
You'll
the second
never
episode-
believe who Grover Cleveland is. It's Bill
Yeah.
Gates.
Exactly, right? Yeah, it's like I can't make it that. But then meanwhile, what I realized was the show had to be 90% awesome history,
Right.
and 10% that cool takeaway.
Right.
Not only so,
10% magic trick. I mean,
yeah.
and I hope I'm not diminishing it when I call it that. It's like you only need a little bit of magic trick. And for Dan Carlin, his magic trick is it's 90% history, and he does a firewall and says, now, let me be clear, I'm not a historian. I'm a fan of history, which is why I'm allowed to suddenly use HDTV 4K metaphors for these things and pop culture constructs or whatever. You have a different magic trick, but I think the core formula is roughly the same.
Yeah, is that the history is a lot closer to where we are than we think.
Yeah.
And we think of things in a very removed perspective, often deliberately in politics, because they don't want you to know that they've been up to the same shit forever.
Right.
Like, it does not serve any political campaign to do anything but remember their hagiography. There's a reason why every time that, the Republicans do the Republican convention, it's all just like Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan and a bald eagle, all Republicans, right?
They all had sex in a magical 3-way, and Mount Rushmore was born.
Out of the eagle's butt. That's was
right.
A great
And
big butt.
black
Like a
people
great
clapped.
big tent. And similar to the Democrats, it's like, you watch the DNC, and man, all that file footage of the Democrats certainly comes after 1960. When doesn't it? Man, it's kind of crazy. Democratic Party's been around for a real long time. Isn't it crazy that all of their file footage like comes from, just the last 60 years? That's a little nuts. And it's not to say that any of that is wrong per se or even unethical, but it is something that I now get to mine. I now get to show like, oh, well, like if you think that this is really far away, then allow me to give you the dad parade.
Right.
Yes, like this season more than any other has like the dad parade. And all the names will be the same as what you hear on cable news as all of their fathers parade through and make statements or have actions that you might resemble their children or might not.
You have a show all about politics.
Mhm.
So I would understand if you want to bottle that up, put it in the closet, set it aside. We could talk about various types of hard ciders or whatever. Um, but separately, because you have a
Yes.
show about politics, you and I swap some texts and
Yeah.
thoughts were exchanged.
Mhm.
What help me calibrate on how much of that you want to share on my part or on your part about how we think things are going to go.
Well, I mean, my point of view is all public. Um, it remains either bold or controversial depending on where the public opinion is. My thought is, as it's always been, that it's hard for an incumbent to lose.
Right.
My thought is, as it's always been, that I think Biden wasted a lot of time during the summer. And that's where we're at. And so it's like I look at things now and I see a Biden campaign that is very dialed in on how much they believe they're ahead and how much they believe that people have already made their decision to things. And all I know is that even as it seemed very unlikely that Donald Trump was going to win in 2016, in the back of my head, I was like, it's very hard for one party to keep the presidency for 3 terms. It's very, very difficult for that to happen. In general, the country doesn't like for one party to be in power for very long. And so it's like that wound up that dirt dumb as elementary as it is. I do believe in some of these fundamentals. I think that it's proven itself out over time more than the very shadowy micro kind of details that even including our current polling.
So I don't know nothing about politics. I do know that per all of the whatever the polling right now, Biden's up what 7? Is that right?
Yeah, it depends. Nationally, anywhere between 6 and 8 or something like that.
Okay. So we also know, as we've talked about before, that I'm a big fan of election betting markets because real money is on the line. And I was a bit taken. I think our back and forth boiled down to blue states really look like they're going to go blue. Red states look like they're really going to go red. Texas, a little bit of a surprise, maybe softer than we thought, but looks like it's going to go red. But ooh, that Florida looks awfully gray. Like, it seems to me like we're about to see a 20-year reunion of Florida deciding the election.
Well, that's not where all the attention is right now. Michigan and Wisconsin are where all the attention is. But I would say Trump can't win without Florida. Like that is something where, like, if Biden can't win without Wisconsin, then Trump can't win without Florida. He needs it. The troubling thing for Biden in Florida is that he is running behind Hillary Clinton's pace with the Hispanic community, and that's not good. You need if you are going to win Florida, you need to blow out the counties where I'm from, Miami, Broward, and Palm Beach. But then you also have to do really, really well on the I-4 corridor. Everything else, and that is basically Tampa to Daytona, the highway that runs across the state that goes through Orlando. Other than that, like, that's red. That is as red as red gets in Florida. And it is a particularly uh Trumpy kind of state. The vibe of Florida obviously kind of matches with Trump stuff.
I
So
mean,
yeah,
yeah.
Trafalgar Group, before we get it in the comments, has Trump +3. That's the first Trump positive poll in Florida recently. Trafalgar Group is one that overcorrects because they believe that polls are not weighting appropriately for Trump support. So it is one that winds up giving rosier perspectives to Trump. That is kind of an outlier. But then again, the last outlier poll that dominated the 2016 election was Rasmussen, and they wound up getting it more correct than some of the other ones. So we will see. But yeah, I mean, will this all come down to Florida? Maybe. I mean, it just depends on all this mail-in ballot stuff, because we have no idea when we're gonna see definitive results, at the very least.
Yeah. So, speaking of which, what is the most charitable way to explain what Trump said about voting and how to vote?
So yeah, Donald
Because
Trump's
it sounded
in
an
North
awful lot like
Carolina.
vote early and vote often.
Yes. So in context, Donald Trump has made no bones about the idea that sending ballots automatically to all registered voters is a bad idea. He believes that is ripe for fraud, especially in states that have never done super expanded mail-in balloting before,
And
are spinning
these
it
would
up
be like
now.
like pre-written. Hello, this is a ballot. Just check and send it in.
Yes.
Got it.
Like, and so basically removing the onus of somebody having to
Write
request
their name
an
or-
absentee
yeah.
ballot, and instead it just coming to you automatically. Right.
Which I mean, throw your eggs at me or whatever, but I don't disagree with. I think in general you should want to vote if you're going to vote.
So the idea then becomes, all right, well, if the response to that is there's systems in place, you should never worry about whether or not there's going to be fraud because there's a system. We are the government and we're great at systems, and that's what we're going to have to prevent ballot fraud. Then in the very Donald Trumpian way, he's like, well, if the system's so great, then you should vote by mail and then go to your polling place and vote again and see if the system is so good, then this should be no problem.
Oh, that's kind of a perfect troll because on the surface, he's able to say, no, I'm just confirming. You're saying the system's so great that it's not possible to vote twice.
There's no fraud. It's 0.000008 fraud.
Well, then it
should
seems
be
like
no
everybody
problem.
should test it. Let's see. And then
Now,
meanwhile,
to your point, that's actually recommending people commit ballot fraud. So it is what it is. I don't know, even if your goal is to beat Donald Trump, how much you want to lean into it, how much you want to make it a gigantic thing, because naughty boy Donald saying the thing that he's not supposed to say and everybody grabbing their pearls and clucking around didn't seem to make him any less popular going into the election last time that we did one of these. So I don't know. It's just one of those things where Donald Trump says the thing, everybody recoils. Donald Trump doubles down on the thing, everyone recoils even further, and then nevertheless we move on to the next news cycle.
well, so along those lines, Couple of things you and I seem to agree on. Incumbents win, period, full stop. Unless there's a very good
tend
reason.
to. Yeah,
they
if
tend
you are
they
not,
tend to win.
if and I don't count George H.W. Bush as an incumbent because that was
That was an extension
of the Reagan
Right.
thing. So that was, to me, even though it was two people, it was one party. And like once you get past two terms, one party winning, it's like the game, the game logic like turns up the ability. Like you have to like, all right, two wins for the party, now win by a larger margin, and then like to get four is extraordinarily hard.
Separate thing. Another thing that doesn't tend to happen is anybody running as, well, at least I'm not that guy. Those people never win. John Kerry ran as not him.
Yeah.
McCain ran as not Obama. Romney ran as not Obama.
I would say Romney more than McCain, because that was two people where Obama was like McCain can probably be criticized for not being as aggressive with Obama as he could have been, because he was afraid of the celebrity that that had amassed so quickly and had already taken down an establishment figure in Hillary Clinton. But I think that's more of a sometimes you get run over by a comet, and Obama was a comet, and that was that. Romney has 4 years to figure out what his message is, and his message was basically like, hey, we hated John McCain because he had too much personality, right? Look at me, even more boring.
Well, and which brings us to Clinton Trump. At the end of the day, I don't think many people would deny one of them was running for a thing, whatever ugly thing Trump was running for. You could make a case that Clinton was running for it's time for a woman president, but mainly she spent all of her money on ads that were like, I'm not that guy. And
that might be, I mean, Hillary Clinton might be kind of the John McCain there, that she was so worried about the celebrity, but instead of deferring to it, she was running on it. Like that was her thing, was that his celebrity was being, it's a great brand for being hated, right? Like, and so she would thought that was the path forward. The issue that she had at its core was the Obama administration was great. That was like baked in, that we don't even need to say it. Oh, we just had the best 4 years in history. What an amazing presidency. Everybody loves it. And now let's go. And what I think they found out both in the primaries and in the general was there's a subsection of society that did not think that was an amazing 8 years, that thought that there were real problems in the country. And I think that there still are people who are like, wait a minute, just because a bunch of media people made money, like, doesn't mean that the country was great. You know, they wanted a change, and Hillary Clinton was certainly not going to be that.
so couple all of that with, and this is my pure speculation, that at every opportunity, somebody who secretly plans to vote for Trump will never admit it to anyone because I've seen it in my personal family. Like I could tell my extended family, they secretly plan to vote for Trump, and none of them want to talk about it. And
None of them
don't want to explain it. They don't want to justify it. They don't want to have that discussion. They've already made up their mind, which makes me feel like maybe the polls are a little bit askew.
So funny you should mention that. That is something that is a very pernicious issue back and forth with the polls, and that is the idea of the shy Trump voter.
Mm-hmm.
That the shy Trump voter is a major issue in our electorate, and that's that's going to be that's going to factor in. Now, what some of the other polling outfits will tell you is that this does not exist. Like, we poll for X amount of people, and we are getting everything. We are weighting them correctly. And then other polls, like we went to the Florida stuff, the Trafalgar group, they believe in the shy Trump voter.
I was
and
about
so
to say,
they
like,
weight,
if there's one state where I would believe in the phenomenon, it would be Florida.
they would, and so Trafalgar group tends to show Trump doing better than some of the other people do, but they weight the Trump people more than they weight or the other polling outfits weight a Trump voter. We don't know, and I think obsessing about polls tends to be a little reductive. I know that I don't put a ton of weight into it beyond, like, to me, they are flickering images in the flames. Like, yes, they might indeed portend the future, or they just might be a lickering, a lick of fire. But I do think no matter what, this is going to be a very close race. This is going to be intensely close.
Yeah, and I think we're all on the same page in that none of us are going to be staying up late on election night, like because it is not going to be settled.
Michigan said today or yesterday that you should not expect final results for a week.
Wow.
And Michigan is one of the key states. Now, here's something that you might hear a lot more of is the concept of the red mirage. Red mirage is that there is going to be an election night where it looks like Donald Trump has an insurmountable lead.
Right.
And then
when
all the
I would
votes are
assume
counted,
that because all things being equal, red types are going to be the types to show up in person and cast their
Yes.
vote. Yeah.
Yes.
Not wearing their masks, showing up in their Sturgis rally jackets. Yeah.
I am here to tell anybody who believes that there is a fantasy gumdrop kingdom where everybody with the fate of the free world at stake is going to sit on their hands and let all of these states very slowly and methodically count out all their votes are kidding themselves. If whoever is up on election night, there is going to be election night and whatever that lead is, and then an unholy, like, the GDP of Russia will be spent on lawyers that will contest every little thing. We're not going to see a world where everything is just counted. Like, that's not, the stakes are too high.
It's literally
the money's
not
too
possible.
big.
Right.
We will get injunctions on injunctions on injunctions, and people will be ordered to stop counting and recounting. Like, if Florida taught us anything, it is that is never without legal challenges. And if it's not going to be without legal challenges, we now know what happened in Florida. They know exactly how to attack it. They know exactly how to deal with it. And
everybody's
again,
seen the rule book. We understand how to break process. Yeah. It's I mean, I guess jumping straight to it. Wow. It all boils down to whether or not Ruth Bader Ginsburg is still alive in 2 months.
Well, I mean, that's a whole nother thing. I mean, that would be quite a scene. Quite a scene if she were to pass away. But it's funny, if she were to pass away and they ran the 2-minute offense to get another Republican on the Supreme Court.
No way. That would never. Oh, good God. Like
they'd try. They'd try.
The only person you get to put in is Judge Andrew Napolitano from Fox News. He's the only one who you could plug in.
He's talked way too much shit.
I know. That's why the Democrats will accept it, and that's why the Republicans will accept it.
No. They would try to Merrick Garland anybody, and the Republicans would try to jam it through. But either way, if they were able to jam one through, that might be enough for some people to just be like, all right, we got what we wanted out of Trump. Yeah, let's get him out of here. It's like, oh, we got 3 Supreme Court justices. Fuck it.
Where are you at on the theory that he never wanted to win and
Never bought it. Never for a second bought it.
Yeah.
No. I mean, number one, running for president sucks. Like, I think you realize very, very quickly that it's awful. Like, it's tiring. It's the shittiest thing. And then you get to be president and it sucks worse. Like, it is more of a pain in the ass. So it's like, number
It's like
one,
you get in that big old Oval Office, you log into themagiccafe.com, and nobody appreciates jack shit.
Exactly. So I don't think there's a reason why I think celebrities tend to not do well running for president, because a lot of like actors or famous people are not used to working that hard. You know, the people that we understand as celebrities tend to.
They are good at pleasing the person who is in front of them at any given time.
Yes.
Which is not what governance looks like.
Like George Clooney is very political. He's somebody that cares a lot about politics, talks a lot about politics. But George Clooney can go work on something and do his Nespresso ad. And then if he gets in a fight with the director, can be like, fuck you, and just get on his private jet to Lake Como, Italy, and blow off steam for a couple weeks. These are things that don't exist in the life of a candidate, let alone a president, right?
Yeah, you're full on trapped.
Yeah. So the people that wind up succeeding are the people that have insane work ethic. And it's like, love him or hate him, Donald Trump has crazy work ethic. Like he is out there doing things on a level that, you know, Fred Thompson didn't do, that other celebrities
I can hear the
didn't
eyes
do.
rolling right now, but understand, waking up at 4 a.m. to watch and keep your finger on the pulse of the news cycle, the 24-hour cable news cycle, all day, every day. I mean, that's not nothing, for what it's worth.
Well, I mean, look, I'm saying he has a politician's work ethic, right? Like, you know, there's the candidates that work the hardest tend to be rewarded for it, and he worked extraordinarily hard in 2016, and you know, was at least outpacing what Biden was doing up until about a week ago. That being said, so about the idea of whether or not he wanted it, I don't think you get that far without knowing you want it. Whether or not he thought he was going to get it, I'm very much of the mind that guy is realistic, and he, like, as much as people inside of his team might have been telling him, we can do it. Like, there's enough after the fact.
There's a reason that he had already pre-planned his own network and his exit strategy and his narrative of like, I'm the guy that should have but didn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I think he might not have thought that he was going to, but I don't think that you get that far without really, really wanting it. It's hard. It's really, really hard. And anybody who makes it sound like it's anything other than the most trying. I mean, again, the primary process and our process for selecting a nominee is fundamentally unfair, undemocratic. The rules don't make sense. They're not representative of the party, and they are very often almost impossible to find out exactly how to do it any one way. And it's simpler as a job application than the job you're going to walk into. Like, it is that's easy mode. All those things are true, and that's easier than being president. Like, being president is this kind of fundamentally impossible thing where it's like, when you look at failed presidencies, it's very often just because they don't even know what levers to pull, you know, and for the worst moments of the Trump administration have often not been, or at least the least effective moments for what they wanted to do, are very often not when he's doing things that are deliberate. It's when he's flailing around because they have no idea what to do. Like, because it's hard. It's fucking really, really hard.
2 questions. One, do we know how many debates there are going to be?
3 with the 2 candidates, and then 1 with the vice presidents.
Okay. Let's talk about the vice presidents.
Yeah.
How and I guess just I'll disclose. I don't think Kamala Harris was a good pick from where I'm sitting. Because now it makes them a team of somebody who loves the drug war and somebody who sent a bunch of drug offenders to prison, and that to me as a libertarian does not look like a good ticket. Can you could probably pitch me on what the other side is?
Money, 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 money. Everybody's got a price for the $1 million Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, almost solely based on her pick, helped Joe Biden raise $365 million in a month.
Wow. Okay.
That's something that's happened over the past 30 years is that the money center for liberal causes moved from New York to California. It used to be a lot of like old money in New York, a very liberal city. It had the Wall Street people that supported Democratic candidates. Headquarters, businesses, blah blah blah. Over the last 30 years, it's almost exclusively, in terms of the big heavy hitters, switched to California as Silicon Valley got big. So it's like not only did you have all the big money in LA, which is a power center, but also extremely liberal. Now you have the most liberal place in the country, in the Bay Area, that now is like literally got Saudi Arabia rich over the past 30 years with the rise of all these, the new center of our economy with tech. Kamala Harris, being a former San Francisco prosecutor, her and Gavin Newsom, and then the California Attorney General, is somebody that is dialed right into that. And she also ticks off a bunch of identity politics boxes. But if you want the real politic reason why Kamala Harris was always going to be that pick, it's because of that cash.
Yeah. She will savage. Like, of the three debates, I think that I think that if I'm normally I'd put this prediction in an envelope and label it with today's date, but if I was going to guess, the two presidential debates boil down to Trump trying to run laps at speed around Biden, trying to get him to get tripped up on his words. And then, but meanwhile, I think Kamala Harris just savages very slowly, very precisely savages Mike Pence.
I'm on the side of the value play. I would bet both underdogs in those. I would say that Biden will do better than we think he is going to do. And I will say that
because we don't expect much.
Well, Biden is because, again, like his DNC speech, the expectations are somewhere 10 miles below Fraggle Rock.
Right.
So it's like literally him just not screaming, "Where am I?" While on live television is going to come off like he's Winston Churchill. The Mike Pence thing, though, is a little bit more tricky, and I think a little bit more of a closer matchup than people might think. You look at Mike Pence and you think he's a sentient milk carton, but the guy was a radio host. He's somebody that does know how to play kind of retail politics. And Kamala Harris really has to have, she has a decision ahead of her. Does she go full prosecutor?
Right.
Or does that come off as
exactly
bitchy? Right?
Yeah. I did listen to Pence on the RNC, and he had a fine story of 3 out of 4 ain't bad. was basically his speech, right? And 3 years out of 4, not bad. But you're right. Kamala Harris has a bit of a liability if she goes too hard on the attack.
She didn't go very hard in her DNC speech. That was very softening for Kamala Harris. It was a lot of like, oh, like, yeah, I'm running for vice president, but my favorite title is Mamala because she has stepdaughters. And so it's like, oh, look at her. She's not this super tough person. She's just a regular old achieving lady, and she's hell younger than Hillary, and we're gonna do it together because she's the real engine in this
Just a
ticket.
mom who sends people to jail.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing is that at a certain point, if you are the Trump campaign, how you don't really, the people that would normally bitch about that aren't going to bitch about it. Like,
Right.
because the
'Cause,
libertarians in general seem to be horrified by Trump because he is pulling the country, pulling the Republican Party further away from the things that they did like about it, like
Right.
fiscal responsibility and stuff like that. They haven't seemed to warm to Trump on the foreign policy side, where he is very much more along the libertarian lines of let's remove
outside of you and me on Andrew Heaton's appearance on The Blaze, I haven't heard anybody, maybe Nick Gillespie, point out the fact that it's like, hey, you know, a thing I've never seen in my lifetime, a president who didn't take us to war until Trump. And, you know, whether it's because he's a coward or not, I like the part that we're not in a war.
Yeah. So, but at the same time, it's the libertarians that would jump up and down and scream about the drug war stuff. It's going to be hard for the Trump and Pence team to do that because they're law and order, law and order, law and order. So the idea of I sent more people to jail is like, finally, we're doing something. But then again, Trump has also pushed the idea of criminal justice reform, and he has come out and said Biden put these people in jail and I got them free. So certainly, you know, Trump is his own rhetorical beast. We will see whether or not Mike Pence will be able to put together something to attack Kamala specifically, or if this is just both of them being attack dogs for the leader of the pack on either side.
I think that Pence is going to play it a little bit more careful because Pence has, if Trump wins, then Pence has a chance to, you know, be the third leg of the legacy. Whereas Kamala Harris, it's like everything's speculative. She's got nothing to lose, and she already has a reputation as an attack dog. So why not just full on prosecute? You know, prosecute everything.
You know, I thought that was going to be her DNC speech, and it was all, you know, cookies and making sure that the kids are ready for bed. Like, you know, it wasn't Kamala Harris during the Kavanaugh hearings where she was very, like, you know,
Savaging
pulled
him.
down her you know, glasses so she can shoot daggers. This was not a let me break down the crimes of Donald Trump and I will show you how terrible he is. Now maybe we get that. Her first on the road campaign event is today. So we will see whether or not, in fact, it might have already happened. But as of now, we have not gotten that, which is why I think, again, you look at Mike Pence being like, you know, rolling off the assembly line for Stepford husbands. And then Kamala Harris is this like badass, take no prisoners. I'm going to sever all your limbs and then beat you with them rhetorically. And I think that might not be the image they want for Kamala. The Democrats have a nasty habit of overthinking themselves. And Mike Pence just might be smiling, genial guy while she gets super mean. And it comes off as a very angry woman versus a man who is very patient. And if that's the case, then I think that is advantage Pence.
So as we wrap up here near the end of the hour, it seems like there are three, to me, and you probably have another one. I think of three major things that are on everybody's mind, and I wonder how they'll look 2 months from now. And just as a thumbs up, thumbs down, getting worse or getting better, our attitudes about coronavirus, getting better or getting worse.
I think that it's just at a certain point a bit flipped. where America started looking at this like a biblical flood. And it wasn't about, you know, we need to nail down the windows tighter. It was about, huh, well, sometimes the biblical flood comes through, and yeah, I'm sure we could have probably nailed everything down a little bit, but it can't really say much when it's washed away the entire house, and that's what it is. So I don't know whether or not that continues. I don't know whether or not when we hit the $200,000 or the 200,000 piece of person dead threshold, which by the way was at the top end of what Dr. Fauci said was to be expected. So at this point now we are above what what the initial 120,000 to 200,000 dead. If that changes our thoughts on it, but nationally right now, I feel like people are just like, well, yeah, we can't go whole hog, but we do want to get these businesses open.
So volume turned down on that one.
I
2
would
months.
trending down.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. The economy.
The economy's looking good. I mean, the economy is something that I think is going to be an asset for Trump. They actually had a very good jobs report on Friday, mostly because the unemployment was at a similar level to where it was when Obama and Biden ran for re-election in 2012. So now they now have a very handy rhetorical device where it's like, hey, the biblical flood came through and it only took us 3 months to be as good as Obama and Biden did after 4 years. So that's how good we are. We're amazing. And it's the best is yet to come or whatever. So I think that for them, the stock market had a correction, but if the jobs keep coming back and for as much as people are going to complain about, like, you didn't really make 10 million jobs, those were the jobs that were lost. It's like, yeah, but if they didn't come back, he'd be blamed for losing them. So whether or not it's peekaboo, that's just political gravity.
And number 3, 2 months from now, where are we going to be at on this political police unrest? I mean, just as a general, more or less.
We're not at I don't know. I genuinely don't know where we're gonna be. It seems like, at least with Kenosha, the governor and the mayor pulled in the National Guard faster than at least they have in like Seattle and Portland and stuff like that. It is an issue that will always be kind of, I think, highlighted more than it is. Like, coronavirus is affecting everybody in every business everywhere, right? The rioting, such that it is on top of the
Seems to be in
protests,
pockets. Yeah.
it's in pockets, and it doesn't affect everybody. But what the Trump campaign wants to successfully do is tell you that it's not about whether or not your window got broken. It's not about whether or not these protesters are going to come into your neighborhood tomorrow. The issue is that these things are going on longer than they've ever gone, and there are more things being broken than there ever have been, because there is an intellectual rot within the Democratic Party that now believes that the best way to deal with violent rioters is to just tell the police to go home. And we are the law and order party, and we will not tell the police to go home. We will send in the National Guard until the violence stops. And that's an interesting thing, because it does also highlight the rural versus city divide of these parties, where for city folks, we don't own shit. I don't own shit. I don't own a car. I don't own my apartment. I don't own anything. If somebody came in and they broke my windows on something, I'd be like, man, I'm gonna have to call this landlord to fix my my window, right? Whereas I think in the more rural areas, there is more home ownership. There's more of a sense of like, ooh, For everybody that's like
my stuff. Yeah.
Like riots are the language of the unheard. Okay, cool. But also I'm the one who's going to have to do that. And also I can think of, the balance. I'm doing math in my head that other people might not be doing. And so if that's on the news, who knows what that does? But the difference in how both parties are looking at it is the Democrats and the Biden campaign specifically hasn't really been able to wrap their head around. It's like, okay, should Joe be marching in these Black Lives Matter protests, or should he be offering support, or should he not? And it took them until last week to say, hey, I condemn all the rioters, and I'm going to make sure that I make a big statement about that, which makes me think that they were concerned about it. Whereas the Republicans at their convention were like, this is the logical endpoint of like cancel culture. This is the logical endpoint of everybody being too afraid to actually just do the thing that needs to be done. And that's what the Democratic Party stands for. And we'll see in November whether or not either of those are what the electorate wants.
So if you're going to place a dollar bet, volume up or volume down on that part?
I have no clue. I mean, like, really, it depends on, do we see another something as crazy as George Floyd? Like,
you're right. It really boils down on chaos vectors of incidents that there truly is no way to predict. All right.
And here's my only question to you, Brian. Will any of those matter as much as the undetermined fourth thing that we have no idea about right now?
The surprise motherfucker.
The whatever it is. And there's one thing that like
Pepe Silva
2020, the one thing that 2020 has taught us is, this is not even my final form. So
nope, you're right.
If I were to bet what will matter, any of those three things or the undetermined fourth thing, I would probably rank them: the economy, the undetermined fourth thing, the coronavirus, and then the riots. But then again, the riots could be number one, or the protests could be number one by the time
it's hard for me to picture. I think that whatever appetite there is to watch protesting is being currently satisfied in mainstream media, and I can't imagine that too many people are saying like, I wish that was in my town, so it's like, it's hard for me to picture it spreading.
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, like, it's going to be crazy. We got a lot of time between now and then.
Okay. But the important question, and then we'll end on something happy. Are we getting a steak?
The reason why I bet the house remains the reason why I bet the house. I think the biggest
in general,
the biggest fluctuation the biggest fluctuation was the pandemic. I think if we lose, it'll be because of the pandemic. But we'll see.
When you say we lose, it might be that America wins. We're talking about if we lose our steak bet with our friends.
Yeah, no, that's what you're talking about.
No, I know. Yeah. I just don't want to get anybody confused here.
Yeah. Oh no. Me and Brian have a bet with Cargill on betting a steak, and long before any of the pandemic stuff happened, we bet the house because incumbents very rarely lose.
Yeah. All right. We love you guys. Hopefully that was not too offensive, and hopefully you'll join us for another episode.
Real quick.
Yep.
What do you have a dog? Who let the dogs out?
1 week. 1 week. Also, hey,
man.
How fucking great was it hanging out with Mark Henry? Like, that was great. That was a really.
I still don't even think that was real. That was amazing.
Yeah, it was
Mark Henry. Yeah, it's funny. I did my best to kind of keep it as friendly and not turn it into just a Chris Farley show.
No, and
I was thrilled.
It was not unnoticed. It was kind of you that you linked together my world and his world and got us to talk about that common ground. That was some smooth operating, and I liked it quite a bit. All right.
See ya.
We'll see you guys.
Happy hour. Night Attacks Happy Hour. Mighty Tax Happy Hour. Dig.